good to go. Do you have an HDMI cord that HDMI that you can just plug in the slot that you can just plug it right into?
I believe so, but I just tested this and it worked just a second ago.
And it wasn't?
It worked just this.
Oh, there it goes.
I'm sorry to say this, but our days of crappy cocktails, vodka shots, and jello shots are numbered. So we might as well get a little bit ahead and learn a little bit about wine growing and harvesting. So, well, first of all, wine is kind of central to everybody's life at some point. I mean, you have wine moms in the suburbs. And I mean, obviously nobody here in this one has the money or the time to get involved in this hobby. But you might as well get a leg up for future conversations about this. So I've worked at a winery for the past couple of years back in my hometown. So I've worked out in the field, I've bottled, I've worked in the areas where we process the grapes. So I do know a little bit about this topic. I can't tell you which wines are the best tasting, but I can give you a basic knowledge of the types of wine, how wines are grown and harvested, and ways wine can be grown responsibly. Well, let's open with red wines. According to an article, Wine Science by Jackson Ronald, the reds typically have a very bold, bitter taste. As you can see here, the dark red color, and these are an example of one of the varietals. There are many varietals within each subcategory of wine. This is a Merlot varietal right here. There are also, according to Hugh Jackson's Pocket Wine Book, Merlot, Pinot Noir, and Syrah, among many other varietals. Then you have your whites. These are Sauvignon Blanc grapes, and you note the color, and these have a very light, kind of sweet taste in comparison to the bold red. And the varietals include Chardonnay, Sauvignon Blanc, and Riesling. And then you have your rosé, which actually come from red wine grapes, but through a process called bleeding, the red wine is actually removed from the skins early in the process, so the color doesn't quite seep in from the skins. And these are the same varietals as the red wines. And also you have port and sparkling wines, but for the sake of simplicity, I won't go into those because there's quite a complicated process to make those. And now you know a little bit about the product, but what about the process? So let's start with the plants. So as you can see here, these are how they're grown in rows. They are first planted as a clipping from one of the canes, which are the vertical branches, as you can see here. And they're put directly in the ground. And each plant has a lifespan of around 40 to 50 years, according to Jeff Cox's Vines to Wines article. These plants don't need much water, as my boss would say. It only takes 6 to 8 gallons to make these plants happy. And one thing that really shocked me upon my work at the winery was that the maintenance was what constituted much of my time. At the maintenance of the plants constituted more of my time than anything. For example, you would have to clear the leaves to make sure they were always exposed to sunlight. You'd always have to make sure the vines are going vertical up through the wire. And overall, I just had to check water lines and make sure the plants were all, as my boss would always say, happy. And then for harvest, typically it happens around August to September, but it varies pretty heavily because you'll find that because of weather, the sugar content of the grapes can vary greatly. So instead of basing it on a time frame, we use what is called a refractometer, according to Marcus Speaker's book, 2014 Napa Valley Wine Harvest. As you can see right here, you simply take a small amount of juice from a grape and you put it on the side right there, and it will tell you how much sugar content is in the grape. And once it has the adequate sugar you want, the harvest will occur. And for wineries that have around 5 acres or smaller, you'll have a small team of workers go out with these knives right here, which are excellent for getting in the small nooks and crannies and also for destroying fingers, as I've noticed over the years. However, if you have a large winery, you're obviously going to use larger machinery like this one pictured here. And the one thing that will impress a wine crowd more than knowing a lot about wine is in knowing a lot about wine and sustainability. So, like all agricultural products, wine can be a little bit harmful if done improperly. One of the main aspects of this is water usage. To alleviate this, one article suggests using drip lines, and most vineyards today actually use drip lines in comparison to sprinklers, which cause a lot of wasted water through evaporation. And the article, Improving Water Waste Efficiency in Grapevines, states that in addition to a product enjoyable in all sensory aspects, consumers expect wines to be healthier and produced in an environmentally sustainable manner. So obviously, at this point, wineries are pretty much far in the process of being sustainable. It's not too far back in the process. An additional method is now new technology. According to Keller Marcus's Science of Grapevines article, is they are now using infrared systems to test the saturation of the soil to make sure the soil is never too saturated and wasting water. And then the other aspect that can really be harmful from growing grapes is the chemical aspect. So you'll find that in growing grapes, the two main chemicals used are pesticides and fungicides. So, example, you might have something like powdery mildew, as pictured here, which can grow if unchecked. It can decimate entire fields, according to Keller Marcus's article. So, instead of using a typical fungicide, one method to prevent this is simply keeping up on your maintenance, and that might be simply removing leaves to make sure there's always an open airflow. And another method may be to use natural chemicals instead. An example is a sulfur solution, which is naturally occurring, and if it does happen to enter the groundwater supply enter the water supply through other routes, it will not damage the local environment as much as, say, like deep wood or some other commonly known pesticide. So, put simply, the best way to mitigate the damage caused by this type of agriculture is to limit the water use and limit the chemical use. And to sum it up, there are red wines, white wines, rosés. And most of the work on a winery is involved in maintaining the grapes, and harvest occurs around August to September based on the sugar content of the grapes. And honestly, the best way to protect the environment is just to be responsible and keep all things in check. And now, as you enter a world full of wine snobs, hopefully you feel a little bit more prepared.